Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Dr. Lon Schiffbauer, and today we are talking about the generic strategies. Now, I know generic doesn't sound overly exciting. However, there's a reason they're called the generic strategies. One thing that you have to bear in mind is when you're choosing a strategy, you're not choosing it. You're not looking on the shelf going, I think I'll take that one, or gee, maybe that strategy. Our strategies are often a mix of generic strategies, the value strategies, the grand strategies, all of which we discuss in these videos. However, every strategy has some flavor, some aspect, some element of the generic strategies. Ergo, the name generic strategies. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this so that we can better understand these. Now, the generic strategies really say, okay, where is your product or service along two vectors? Market appeal and cost versus uniqueness pressure. So, market appeal is, hey, are you really going for a broad market? Do you want your product to be available to everybody and appealing to everybody? Or are you going for a more narrow market? Do you want to service a unique niche of consumers? When it comes to the cost versus uniqueness pressure, it's asking, hey, are you really going to go for a low cost model? Are you going to try to make your product as affordable as possible? Or are you going for differentiation? You're looking to differentiate yourself from the competition, be something unique, be something special, and therefore probably end up spending or at least charging a little bit more for your product. Okay, so that's the idea. Let's go ahead and look at an example that we can all relate to. Water. Now, in the case of, say, tap water, just water running straight out of the tap, this goes to a very broad customer base. I mean, everybody has tap water, or at least everybody in kind of the, first world countries and so forth. Unfortunately, tap water is not available everywhere. But for those of you who are watching this, you probably have tap water available to you. And furthermore, it's really low cost. I mean, it's so inexpensive that you bathe in this stuff every single day and spray it all over your front yards, and yet you have no idea how much it costs. You really don't. How much does a gallon of water cost from the tap? You would not be able to answer that question without going to your bills and trying to figure it out and so forth. And frankly, it's so cheap you don't care. So that's an example of cost leadership. We are providing a product to the broadest possible customer base at the lowest possible price. Okay, that's tap water. But now, what about bottled water? Now, in truth, bottled water is pretty much the same darn thing as tap water. In fact, a lot of bottlers just pretty much put tap water into the bottle and then sell it. So it's still fairly inexpensive. Well, now, what's its differentiation? Well, it's going to an extremely broad market, but its differentiation is that it's portable. It's portable, potable water, right? You can take it to games, you can take it to shows, you can take it on picnics, you can take it on hikes, you can take it all over the place. So while the product itself, the water, is more or less the same, the fact that it is extremely portable adds a layer of differentiation. And therefore, you can charge a little bit more for this product. Tap water, really, really, really cheap, whereas bottled water, the basic bottled water, well, it's probably 50 cents a bottle or something. Who knows? We don't really care that much because it's not like it's heinously expensive, and we're willing to pay the difference for that portable capability. Okay, well, now, what about then a more narrow market? Well, consider for a moment Fiji water. Fiji water is, Well, it's a little bit more, it appeals to a little bit more of a narrow market. You don't just drink Fiji water when you're out on a hike and so on and so forth. It's something you have with a lunch. When you go out and they say, hey, do you want soda? No, I don't want soda. I want water. And they pick up this really nice bottle of Fiji water and it costs like $3, right? And so, yes, it's still considered low cost, but only because you're now going to a very, very narrow market, or I shouldn't say very, very, we'll get there in a moment, but you're going to a more narrow market. We are willing to pay a little bit more for this water because it's high end, but it's really meant to appeal to everyone. Everyone within the sound of my voice has had Fiji water or Dasani or some sort of kind of higher end bottled water. However, you don't drink it on a regular daily basis. You certainly don't bathe in the stuff, right? Okay, well, then that brings us to our last category, which is right over here, differentiation focus. Differentiation focus says, first of all, we're going to an extremely narrow market and we are differentiating ourselves from everybody else. And the example I have is Berg water. Berg water is, yes, water harvested directly from an iceberg. So, reading from the company's website, iceberg water is a very unique product in a superior category all by itself. The water's journey started over 15,000 years ago in the ancient glaciers of Western Greenland. It has been safely stored in the ice cap, protected by the ocean and the hazardous conditions of the Arctic weather. Isolation has made its source totally inaccessible to man. Well, wow, right? I mean, that's some pretty high end water. And yeah, it's heinously expensive, but because it is so totally differentiated from anything else you're going to get anywhere else. And until you saw this video, you didn't even know it existed. That is how narrow this market is. All right. So there you go. That is the generic strategies. Think about how it applies to your products, your services, and you will then have a competitive advantage because you will know how to compete in your niche. All right. So thanks a lot for joining me, and we'll see you again soon. Have a fantastic day.